One of the most notable features of late Ming China is the dramatic appearance of Jesuit missionaries. This is not to say that there weren't Christian missions already in China, or that there weren't Christians already present in Asia and Chinese empire is broadly construed. Of course there were, but Jesuit missionaries become this sort of phenomenon. The history of the missions of the Jesuits in Ming China and then later Qing China is part of the broader history of the relationship between China and the world, and of course China and Europe. The missionary efforts and other work of the Society of Jesus or Jesuits between the 16th and 17th century played a significant role in continuing the transmission of knowledge, science, and culture between Ming and Qing China and various parts of Europe, especially the Iberian Peninsula and Italy. The exchange fostered the notion among many Europeans and also many Chinese folks and Chinese sources that there was a sort of dichotomy between East and West, where you might have Orient and Occident to draw upon Latin-derived terms. What's important to note is that these conceptions were used to create an imaginaire among the Jesuits and Europeans more broadly, which led to a phenomenon called Orientalism. One reason why I avoid the terms East and West, and you should avoid the terms East and West in your analysis as well. Instead, focus on the geographies at play. So here we are talking about European missions and Ming China at first. The first attempt by the Jesuits to reach China was made in 1552 by St. Francis Xavier, a Navarrese priest and missionary and founding member of the Society of Jesus. However, Xavier never reached the mainland of Ming China, dying only after a year on the Chinese island of Shangchuan. A few years after Xavier's death, the Portuguese were allowed to establish Macau, a semi-permanent settlement on the mainland which was about 100 kilometers closer to the Pearl River Delta than Shanchuang Island. A number of Jesuits visited the place, as well as the main Chinese port in the region of Guangzhou, on several occasions. And eventually, in 1563, the Order of Jesus, or the Jesuits, permanently established its settlement in the small Portuguese colony of Macau. However, the early Macau Jesuits did not learn Chinese language, Mandarin Chinese, or Cantonese, and their missionary work could only reach a very small number of Chinese people in Macau who spoke Portuguese. In this image, you see the frontispiece of Athanasius Kircher's 1667 China Illustrata, depicting the Jesuit founders Francis Xavier and Ignatius of Loyola, adorning the monogram of Christ in heaven while Johann Adam Schall von Bell and Matteo Ricci labor in China on the mission. Go ahead and take note of some key points of the image. In Macau, a new regional manager of the Order of Jesus, the Jesuits, Alessandro Valignano, visited the area in 1578 and 1579. He realized that the Jesuits weren't going to get far in Ming China without a sound grounding in the Chinese language of Mandarin and the culture of the empire. He founded St. Paul Jesuit College of Macau and requested the order's superiors in Goa in India to send a suitable talented person to Macau to study Chinese Mandarin language, notably not the language of Southern Chinese, not one of the languages of Southern Chinese, Hakka, Hokkien, or Cantonese, or Taishanese, or so forth, but Mandarin, the language of the court. Accordingly, in 1579, the Italian Michel Ruggieri, who lived from 1543 to 1607, was sent to Macau, and in 1582 he was joined at his task by another Italian, a figure that you are reading about, Matteo Ricci. Fascinatingly enough, both Ricci and Ruggieri were determined to adapt the religious qualities that they perceived as, quote, religious qualities of the Chinese. Ruggieri to the common people, in whom Buddhist and Taoist elements predominated, and Ricci to the educated classes, where Confucianism prevailed. Hence, Ricci became a sort of syncretic practitioner of Christianity and Confucianism. Ricci, who arrived at the age of 30 and spent the rest of his entire life in Ming China, wrote to the Jesuit houses in Europe and called for priests, men who would not only be good, but also men of, quote, talent, since we are dealing here with a people both intelligent and learned. The Spaniard Diego de Pontoa and the Italian Sabatino de Usis were some of these so-called talented men who joined Ricci in his venture, all of whom learned Mandarin Chinese. Matteo Ricci left, and Xu Guangxi right in the Chinese edition of Euclid's Elements are pictured here, published in 1607. Go ahead and take note of the sort of features of the publication here. For this particular discussion post, I would like to ask you to compare the portrayals of the missionaries. So, on the left-hand side, that image from St. Francis Xavier, and then on the right-hand side, that image of Matteo Ricci. Note that Matteo Ricci also appears on the left-hand side of the slide as well. Go ahead and note any notable features of these presentations, and just think about how you would compare them, and let's get the discussion going.